source I got was by Amy Friedman. The story I'm going to be telling is Rangi and Papa. So there was a shell on the top of the sky, and it was Rangi, and on the bottom it was Earth, which was Papa. These were the parents of the gods, at least to the Polynesians. They had 6 children together, and those children made up the Earth and made up us humans. The children were too big to stay into the shell. They needed more room and more space. They had 6 sons, no girls, but these sons did not want to stay in the shell whatsoever. The 6 sons' names were Tahigamita. He was the god of the wind, then Tan, the god of the forest, then Tu, the god of the war. Next was Tangora, the god of sea, Rango, the god of peace, and lastly Ru, the god of food. They made the earth, they made the inside of the earth, which is what we live in now. They wanted to leave the shell, but their parents wouldn't let them in. So they had all ideas, multiple ideas. One of them said to kill their parents, but that was only one of them. All of them did not agree to that. Finally, Tan had a better idea to separate Papa and Rangi. He did this by laying down on his back and forcing the shell open with his feet upwards. Then Rangi and Papa were finally separated. Tagamira was very mad that their brothers did this, so he sent them storms all the time. This came with thunder and lightning and whirlwinds. This came with anger of the separation of his parents. The sons finally decided to make humans, but they did this when they knew they had enough space between the earth and sky to fit enough humans into the world. They did this by making mold together with red clay. They all worked together to do this, and after it was done, the brother Tain, who was again the god of the forest, took the figures of clay of a man and woman and putting his nose on the clay's nose of the sculpture, and that's how humans became. They started breathing together. The lungs brought life into their bodies. Then the clay turned into a human's life, and their eyes opened and got to see the world, and when they sneezed, that's when they woke up. By the end of this, Papa and Rangi seen what their sons did because they were watching over them, and they were very proud of their sons. But they did still miss their sons' touch and appearance around Papa and Rangi. Rangi would cry for his sons, and this would cause in mornings that were very damp. But his cares did help in the morning mist Papa's sighs of sadness. This culture story was by the Polynesians people. They were told this as a young age, and the kids kept telling the story down the line of new generations that were to come.
Okay, so this is the story of the Padawatomi people, and that is a term used for the Native American people that lived around Lake Michigan. This story is from a school textbook called Native American Creation Stories. Anishabe found himself alone on Earth. The Creator told him to give everything a name, and he did this, accompanied by a wolf. He discovered that only he, among many species, was alone, without a mate, and he was lonely. He traveled to the Great Lakes, and while searching, heard a beautiful song come across the water. A woman's voice was singing that she was making a home for him. He fell in love with the voice and the song. In the days that followed, he learned how to cross the water and finally came to a lodge facing the west. There lived a beautiful woman and her father, the firekeeper. This was the first union, Anishabe and the firekeeper's daughter. It determined the roles of men and women in marriage. They had 4 sons who were grown up. They had 4 sons who, when they were grown, traveled to the 4 directions of earth. The son who traveled north and had a hard journey, but learned that the melting snow cleansed Mother Earth. Because of the snow, the color for north is white. This son married the daughter of the spirit of the north and was given sweet grass, the first gift of Mother Earth. It is kept in a braid like a mother's hair. The second son traveled east, into the yellow of the rising sun. He learned that the fire is the essence of life and gained a knowledge of the Creator. He married the daughter of the spirit of the east and was given tobacco to use in prayer and to communicate with the Creator. The third son went south, which is the woman's direction from which come seeds and other things that give life. Red, the color of life's blood, is the color for south. He married the spirit of the south's daughter and was given the gift of cedar, which is used to cleanse and purify the home and prepare for food. The fourth son went west towards the mountains, marrying the spirit of the west's daughter, and he was given sage, and learned that the setting sun represents the circle of life and its cycle. The color for west is black, for the dark time, and the sage, a strong purifier, is to keep illness away. Smoke from the cedar and sage is fanned upward with an eagle feather, because the eagle once saved the Indian people when the Creator would have destroyed them. The eagle told the Creator there were faithful people on earth, and was sent out each morning to see if the smoke still rose from the lodges of those good people. Fanning the smoke with the eagle feather symbolizes the eagle delivering the message to the Creator that his people are still there and still believe.
This story is a synthesis of 3 stories from classical Chinese mythology. The stories come from the classic of Mountains and Seas, an anthology of stories collected in the 1st century BC that were nearly as ancient then as the anthology seems to us today. Long, long ago, when heaven and earth were still one, the entire universe was contained in an egg-shaped cloud. All the matter of the universe swirled chaotically in that egg. Deep within the swirling matter was Pangu, a huge giant who grew in the chaos. For 18,000 years, he developed and slept in the egg. Finally, one day, he awoke and stretched, and the egg broke to release the matter of the universe. The lighter, purer elements drifted upwards to make the sky and heavens, and the heavier, impure elements settled downwards to make the earth. In the midst of this new world, Pangu worried that heaven and earth might mix again, so he resolved to hold them apart, with the heavens on his head and the earth under his feet. As the two continued to separate, Pangu grew to hold them apart. For 18,000 years he continued to grow until the heavens were 30,000 miles above the earth. For much longer he continued to hold the two apart, fearing the return of the chaos of his youth. Finally, he realized they were stable, and soon after that he died. With the immense giant's death, the earth took on a new character. His arms and legs became the 4 directions and the mountains. His blood became the rivers, and his sweat became the rain and dew. His voice became the thunder, and his breath became the winds. His hair became the grass, and his veins became the roads and paths. His teeth and bones became the minerals and rocks, and his flesh became the soil of the fields. Up above, his left eye became the sun, and his right eye became the moon. Thus in death, as in life, Pangu made the world as it is today. Many centuries later, there is a goddess named Nuwa who roamed this wild world that Pangu had left behind, and she became lonely in her solitude. Stopping by a pond to rest, she saw her reflection and realized that there was nothing like herself in the world. She resolved to make something like herself for company. From the edge of the pond, she took some mud and shaped it in the form of a human being. At first, her creation was lifeless, and she set it down. It took life as soon as it touched the soil, however, and soon the human was dancing and celebrating its new life. Pleased with her creation, Nuwa made more of them, and soon her loneliness disappeared in the crowd of little creations. For 2 days she made them, and still she wanted to make more. Finally, she pulled down a long vine and dragged it through the mud, and then she swung the vine through the air. Droplets of mud flew everywhere, and when they fell, they became more humans that were nearly as perfect as the ones she had made by hand. Soon she had spread humans over the whole world. The ones she made by hand became the aristocrats, and the ones she made by the vine became the poorer common people. Even then, Nuwa realized that her work was incomplete, because as her creations died, she would have to make more. She solved this problem by dividing the humans into male and female, so that they could reproduce and save her from having to make new humans to break her solitude. Many years later, Pangu's greatest fear came true. The heavens collapsed so that there were holes in the sky, and the earth cracked, letting water rush from below to flood the earth. At other places, fire sprang forth from the earth, and everywhere wild beasts emerged from the forest to prey on the people. Nuwa drove the beasts back and healed the earth. To fix the sky, she took stones of many colors from the river and built a fire in which she melted them. She used the molten rock to patch the holes in the sky, and she used the 4 legs of a giant turtle to support the sky again. Exhausted by her labors, she soon lay down to die, and like Pangu, from her body came many more features to adorn the world that she had restored.